So let's now talk about the real challenge of innovation. Not so much about just de-risking it by a stage gate process or having the right methods to get access to sticky information, but really overcoming perhaps the largest resistance and hurdle for real innovation in a company. It has very much to do with our way of thinking. What do I mean with this? Let's illustrate this with a simple example from sports. And while sports may be not an innovation in your perspective, actually it is. So if we take the sports of high jumping, we can see different regimes of innovation. We can see them perhaps more as a process innovation. So Ray Avery was one of the early Olympic winners in that sport. And he set the world record of 1.98 m in 1908 by jumping over the hurdle, as seen on this picture, really jumping forward with his legs. And many people followed, and at this time the dominant thinking and the dominant design how this exercise has to be executed was exactly the way how Ray Avery did it best. Then Mildred McDaniel came. In 1933, when he was born, over the next years until 1956, when he competed in Melbourne in the Olympic Games, setting a world record of 2.15 m, and as you see in the picture, in a very different pattern. As he, or better his coach, dared to change the dominant thinking how this task should be executed, while all before incrementally improved in getting higher experience in executing the way how Ray Avery did it, Mildred McDaniel created a new regime. He was risky in setting up a new procedure. And this later was met by Richard Fosbury, who in 1968 did the famous Fosbury jump, setting a world record of 2.24 m, which still today is the dominant design how to solve this task. So we have 3 process innovations, and we have 3 innovators here that somehow dare to think about the execution of this task differently. And for all of them it was a big risk, as jumping as Fosbury did with the back first really required a very different training regime. It was very risky, and it required the way that his coach says, I think there is a better way and you should follow me in executing this. As Fosbury knew, if this would went wrong, his entire career would be ruined, as he lost all the time to execute the Mildred McDaniel jump. So very often, and this is true for management in general, very often it's true that how we think about something is really shaping the way how we manage it. And so here what I talk about, how we think about a product, what we really see, what's the space to innovate this product, shapes the way how we manage and execute it. This is a nice example. This is a so-called flip camera. You may know it or may know it not. Here in the picture you find the original. This is a later model of a more fancy design. But the flip camera became out of nothing the most successful video camera in a very satisfied market in the US within a few months, actually, getting 50% market change by thinking about a video camera very differently. Previously, innovation in video camera was all about technology. It was about the megapixels, the high definition, the fuzzy sensor, and all these tricks and whistles you have in modern video cameras. However, the team behind Flip said, well, perhaps there is a room for a video camera that is damn simple. So a main feature of this flip camera is that it has only very few buttons. It has one for start filming and stop filming, and this actually a more novel model had a zoom. The original one did not have a zoom. But as a feature, it always have this idea that you very easily can connect your video camera with your computer, as actually the camera came with very clever software that allowed you to share your video on YouTube within 20 minutes, even if you did not know what YouTube is. So in this video camera, which had very different value proposition and characteristics as all the other cameras on the market, which were much more successful, got 50% market share, as people were rethinking the way how a video camera can be sold. They say, well, there are these people that have video cameras today and they really honor all the technological innovation. But the flip were targeting the 50% of the market that did not have any video camera, that just wanted to make a small video and share it on the internet without really having a too much complicated learning process and so on behind it. So how we think about it is really how we manage it. Another more recent example comes from General Electric Healthcare. They produce electrocardiogram machines measuring your heart frequency. And the existing machines of GE, they are one of the market leaders, all came with a price tag of minimum $10,000. But they saw an opportunity to enter the market in rural India. However, for India, they know the market price has to be not more than $400. And a normal company would have passed away. They would say, this is not possible. Nowadays we charge $10,000. It's totally unlikely that we can produce a product that we can sell at a profit for $400. However, GE and the team here took the challenge and they said, let's totally think differently about this electrocardiogram machine. Of course, it has to have the same performance. In the end, it's a doctor applying it to a patient and we want to be damn sure that we get the right data. However, they thought all the reasons why the original machine costs $10,000, perhaps we can think differently about it. And what they did actually, and first created the so-called Mac 400 and then the iMac, we see already by their names where they got the inspiration. What they did was thinking about this electrocardiogram machine not as a piece of medical equipment, which comes with very high standard and dedicated hardware components, but thought about it as a consumer electronic piece. And you all know, and the flip again is a great example, as the original flip were just costing $50. And so they were thinking about how can we make a video camera which is good enough for $50. And so we don't have to make it as upscale. And exactly the same they did for the iMac electrogrammic machine. They said, how can we use parts from the consumer electronic industry that helped us to achieve this price tag? And actually GE was highly successful for this. And think about, if you are able to make a $400 machine for the Indian market, you can bring this innovation back to your home market, the US or the Western world, and perhaps launch there a $4,000 machine, totally cutting the price of all your competitors and still making a large profit. So one of the big things really is about that we have to change our perspective about how we think. And this is overall perhaps the largest success factor of innovation management. It's really on how we see something, and which we explore in the next and final module, how we balance a short-term perspective, what we have, on improving what we have, with a more long-term perspective on really creating sustainability for our company with regard of creating radical new products which are based on changing our perspective, thinking differently.